Welcome to the small series about Snowflake projects and the obstacles that can come with them. We at Initians are building solutions to overcome these issues, and one of the solution designers is today with me, Tobias Wenz. Can you please give us a small introduction?
Hi, I'm Tobias and I'm developing CI/CD workflows for various technologies, and I've been especially working on Snowflake.
My name is Tobias Krüger. I'm a data engineer and a data architect for Snowflake for about 5 years now. And I'm usually working on migrating projects from other data warehouses to Snowflake, or also building a data cloud from the scratch on the greenfield. In most of these projects, several developers are working on the same database project, and this can be sometimes a little bit messy. I know, Tobias, your solution is focusing on overcome this by using Git workflows. Can you give us some insight on that?
Of course. The tool we've developed is called ACE Deploy, and the idea is to enable Git-based workflows for deployments to Snowflake. The approach we have chosen is a declarative approach instead of an imperative approach because we believe the declarative approach is easier to work with and more efficient for the developers.
Imperative versus declarative approach. Can you give me an example what this means?
Yes. Maybe let's take a look at a small real-world example. Imagine you get to a new city and you arrive there by train. Now you're at the station and you need to go to your hotel. With the imperative approach, maybe you rent a car and then you drive yourself to the hotel. At each intersection, you need to decide, do I want to go left, do I need to go right, or maybe straight ahead? You do this all the way until you reach your hotel. With the declarative approach, you would get a taxi instead. You tell the taxi driver, please take me to my hotel, and in the end, you will get there. You don't need to worry about which directions exactly to take because the taxi driver will take care of that. This is especially handy if there are some roadblocks. If you take the imperative approach, you would need to find your own way around the obstacle. With the declarative approach, the taxi driver will take care of that. And that is why we believe that the declarative approach is easier for users because all the difficult work is taken care of by the taxi driver, or in our case, ACE Deploy.
All right, got that. And what would that mean in a database approach?
When you look into this from the database perspective, if you choose the imperative approach, you would write many alter statements. For example, if you want to add a new column to your table, you would write alter table add column. When you choose the declarative approach, then you would just update the table definition. So for example, you would just add the new column address to your table. And then the deployment framework will take care of actually generating the alter statement for you and then run it on the database.
Sounds awesome. Let's have a look at it.
To demonstrate this, we've set up a small database. This one has 2 schemas, one core schema, which contains 3 tables, and we also have a reporting schema, which contains 2 views. If we take a look into the customer table, we find that this one has 3 columns, one for the ID, one for the first name, and one for the last name. Let's take a look at the repository, which represents the database. We have, again, the same 2 schemas with the same objects, the tables and the views. And if you look into the customer table, you see that this one has the same columns that we've seen before on the database.
Okay, and if I want to add a column now to this customer table, like for instance address, what would I need to do?
In that case, you can create a new feature branch and add these changes to your feature branch. Basically, all you need to do is add a new line which has the definition of your new column, in this case address as a varchar. You can now collect all the changes you want to make and commit them to your branch. Once you're happy with all the changes, you are now ready to deploy them to the database.
Okay, and how is that done?
In most tools, you would use a pull request, which is a request to deploy these changes to the target database. In Azure DevOps, you have the option to use this pull request to also review the code or have a discussion on the code. So the whole team can collaborate and see what everybody else has been doing. To deploy the changes, we want to open a pull request. Now this pull request is basically a request to deploy your changes to the database. In our case, we want to merge our changes into the dev branch, which represents the dev database. The pull request enables collaboration within the team. So for example, you can have a set of reviewers which must review the code before it can be deployed. Also, pull requests are a great way to collaborate. For example, you can have discussions on the code and review what everybody else has been doing. In addition to that, pull requests also allow you to have an automated check on your code. In this case, a pipeline has been running in the background, which AceDeploy has validated that the code changes you've made are actually valid SQL and can be deployed to the database. That way, we always make sure that the code we will deploy is actually working. Now, the last step that's missing is an approval from a reviewer. In this case, I can do this myself. Once we've done that, we can now complete the pull request, which automatically triggers the deployment onto the database. After just a few minutes, the deployment to the database is done, and now we can take a look at the actual database. So we switch over to the Snowflake, and when we refresh the column list, we find that now we have 4 columns, and the address is now available.
Thank you very much for this introduction, Tobias. We will continue this series and have a look at other use cases that you can solve with AceDeploy. If you're interested, you can reach out to us to the email, which is down below in the description. See you around.